Hey everybody, Renegade68 here with some spinning dog things? Yeah, that's weird. Hi everybody, Renegade68 here with some Let's Play Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance in 3 dimensions blind. So yeah, this is a game I've been putting off for a long time. It was never going to be a Let's Play. The idea of it being a Let's Play wasn't even on my radar for the longest time. And then suddenly, I still hadn't played it. I had my 3DS capture card, and someone posted a comment on my videos about some Kingdom Hearts related subject, and then it hit me. I could do that. That could be a thing. I've been wanting KH3 to be a blind LP for a long time, whenever that comes out, because for those who are not in the know, KH2 was my original first ever LP. A blind LP of it, kind of. It was sort of blind, but I was stupid, so I didn't understand the concept of live commentary, and I made it post-commentary, and blind LP post-commentary kind of defeats the purpose of it being blind, which is the same reason why it's kind of dumb to make a blind walkthrough. I mean, if you're gonna not talk, then know what you're doing. Anyways, yeah, it was dumb. Eventually I went live, but there were hiatuses, and I just didn't bother with. I canceled the LP and deleted it. But to be fair, I don't think it's a very good game, anyways. But yeah, let's get into that. Actually, my thoughts on the games up till now, because I've missed what 6? I haven't LP'd. I definitely planned to LP this one and Kingdom Hearts 3. But there's a lot of backstory here, and if I just jump straight into this without giving any of my thoughts or any of my expectations, I don't know, I feel like we wouldn't be on the same wavelength. It wouldn't be a let's play, it would be me play, and you guess what I'm thinking. And you all know how much I love talking about what I'm thinking, so I don't want you to guess. Which is why this is going to be part 0. This is not part 1. Next video will be part 1. That's when I'm starting the game. I'm just going to make that distinction so you don't go thinking, oh, how long in the video until he starts playing. I'm not going to start playing, not in this video. I'm just going to talk about my thoughts. Whether that means a 10-minute video or a fucking hour of me talking, I don't know. Either way, I'm starting the game in the next video. Yeah, as I said, Kingdom Hearts 2, in my opinion, so far is the worst game in the series. I know that's not a very popular opinion. Most of that's because of the plot, although I have some issues with the gameplay as well. But let me start at the beginning. Kingdom Hearts 1 was a simple game. It was a fun game. The plot wasn't anything complicated. Probably the only Kingdom Hearts game that doesn't have a plot that's crazy complicated. But it was just, you know, teaming up with the Disney good guys, fight the Disney bad guys, and every Disney world, because the Disney bad guys were like the Council of Evil, every time you fought one of them Disney bad guys, it felt like you were making progress in the overall story. Plus, there's the 7 Princesses of Heart, which kind of played into it, so anytime you went to Disney World, it felt like there was progress, which was nice. And, you know, the plot was simple, but it was good. The gameplay got kind of repetitive and stale, but they kind of alleviated that because there was challenge to it. It definitely wasn't an easy game, and that meant it kind of alleviated some of the button mashing. You had to button mash, but you had to know your enemy's patterns. The issue with it being challenging is that there was no cutscene skips, which really, really hurts the experience. Now, I know Final Mix is out in English now, but A, I don't have a PS3, nor do I ever plan to get a PS3, but also, even if I did, we still didn't have an English version of Final Mix for, what, over a decade? I don't know exactly how long, but it was a long time. And even if we did get Final Mix around the time it came out in Japan, we still would have went a while without having a Final Mix. Like a year or something, I'm guessing? I don't know for sure. But in that case, it still would have been a while where if you decided to jump straight into Kingdom Hearts as soon as it came out, if you were one of those people that was super interested, your reward would be getting the lesser version. If you waited, you get the superior version. Now, that's how it works with games in general, but still, like, no cutscene skips is huge. Like, that's something they definitely needed a Final Mix for. And they would have been nice to give it to us, you know, instead of waiting for a friggin' decade before giving it to us, but hey, whatever. Yeah, so Kingdom Hearts 1 was fine. Nothing special, but it was fine. Although, it was kind of interesting because I know for a lot of people, Kingdom Hearts 1 was like people, like, reliving their childhood dreams or whatever, you know, getting to see Disney match with Final Fantasy, but for me, it was kind of like living out those dreams for the first time, because before playing Kingdom Hearts, I hadn't played any Final Fantasy. even now, the only ones I've played are Final Fantasy IV, which I like a lot, and Final Fantasy 1, which, less said about that one, the better. But, I mean, that was the first one, and that was in days of old, so I can excuse a lot. But, and I do want to play some of the other ones, but, and as for Disney, I've seen some of the Disney movies, but a lot of them, like, when I saw them, I was so young that I don't even remember what happened. And some of them I never even saw. Most of my exposure to Disney is Star Wars and Pixar. Yeah, so, like, I'm wondering if they're gonna have any of that coverage in Kingdom Hearts 3, like, they gotta do a Star Wars world. Star Wars is too huge to not do a have some Star Wars coverage in Kingdom Hearts 3. Pixar, we'll see. I could definitely see a Toy Story world. But, I know originally in Kingdom Hearts 2, they were gonna have Lightyear, Buzz and Woody were gonna, like, there's code in the game for those characters in Kingdom Hearts 2, but they never made it into the final version. Or even the Final Cut version. So yeah, that's Kingdom Hearts 1. Chain of Memories, in my opinion, Chain of Memories is the best game in the series so far. At least Rechain. I don't know about Original Chain, haven't played the Original Chain, but I really love Rechain. I know that the battle system is hit or miss with most people, but with me, it definitely hit me. Hit me right in the ball sack. It was good. It's not perfect, but for the first time trying not only this card system, but trying to keep Kingdom Hearts the same but different, I think they did a really good job. With some polish, it could have definitely been better, but I think for what it was really good. I really enjoyed the card system. I really enjoyed all the strategy that went into it, because it wasn't just a simple button masher anymore. So I really liked it. I also like how they had two different stories, but each story had like its own type of gameplay, and they were unique. And I enjoyed that aspect a lot as well. Let's see. Yeah, so gameplay aside, story progression was a bit slow at times, because you were kind of retreading through the original Kingdom Hearts worlds, but one good thing about that game, at least, is that between each world you would get, like, overarching stories. So it wouldn't just be you go several Disney worlds with no story. Because between each world you'd get, like, what's going on with the Council of Evil, or what your thoughts are, and, yeah, so there was progression, which is good. Even if it was a bit slow at times. Especially early on. Like, you went, like, 5 worlds between Axel and Larxene, so, okay, overall story. Story was amazing. I love the story in that game. The main story with Sora is really, really good. Story with Riku is also kind of good. They definitely could have done a bit more with Riku's story, I feel. I get it was kind of a side thing, but they kind of wasted Zexion and Lexius, I feel. But, I did like the struggle with Ansem, and I enjoyed Riku's thing. It just could have been better. Sora's thing, though, was really good. With him losing his memories and, you know, but getting fake memories, and then the Repliku. Repliku was awesome. I felt so sad for Repliku when he died in Riku's story. I'm like, no, he could have been a real boy, but he died. Oh, I felt so bad for him. But yeah, that whole plot, that whole thing was awesome. Like, they did a good job of building up towards Kingdom Hearts 2, leaving a lot of things open-ended, but still having a good self-contained story. In any game that ends you on a cliffhanger or anything, it's always good to have a good self-contained story, because otherwise it's just one game that's giant build-up, and at that point, it's just gonna piss you off, because, like, you wanted more, and, like, you got more, but the more you got was just saying, okay, get the next one. But with Chain, at least, it was like, no, it had its own self-contained story. It did have elements that continued on, but it had a self-contained story, which I like a lot. Moving on, Kingdom Hearts 2. This is the big one. Yeah, my opinion, worst Kingdom Hearts game so far. The plot is bad. That's the main aspect. I think the beginning is really good. The Roxas bit is awesome. Everything up to, like, the end of Axel, like, the prologue before the Kingdom Hearts thing logo displays on screen, that's all amazing. And Roxas, I think, is, yeah, I'd say he's my favorite Kingdom Hearts character. Yeah, I like Riku a lot, too, but Roxas takes the cake for me. And then, I find it so weird that at the beginning of the game, you focus on Roxas, Axel, Naminé, Diz, Ansem/Riku, Hayner, Pensalette, and then after that beginning portion, all of them. None of them are important through the rest of the game. Like, none of them, at all. Diz gets a bit of importance towards the end. And Riku gets some importance towards the end. Everybody else, like, if they have any other role through the rest of the game, it's minor. It's especially jarring with Roxas, because they made him the main freaking character for a little bit, And then they're like, oh yeah, and now you're Sora. Forget about Roxas. He doesn't matter anymore. And that was really annoying. It was especially annoying for me because I got fake spoiled. Let me know in the comments if this has happened to any of you guys. But as I said, I was making a Kingdom Hearts 2 Let's Play originally. And like, I was clicking on, I don't remember the exact reason, but I was on one of my videos. Maybe I was checking the comments, I don't know what I was doing. But, you know how in the sidebar it'll have, like, related videos or whatever. And one of them, at this point, by the way, I was getting kind of bored of the game. And I'll get back to why that is in a second. But, I saw in the sidebar a thing that said, Roxas and Axel versus Sephiroth. And when I saw that, I'm like, I get to be Roxas again? Yes! Because I was waiting. I was, like, waiting for them to get back to, like, major plot stuff, get to Roxas or something. I was so interested in that Roxas stuff. I wanted them to get back to it. And so when I saw that, Roxas and Axel versus Sephiroth, in my mind, I'm like, that makes sense. Sephiroth bonus boss, okay, that makes sense. Getting back Roxas, teaming up with Axel, that makes sense. I mean, on one hand, I was kind of annoyed that I was spoiled that that happened. On the other hand, I was excited. Because again, I was getting kind of bored of the game at that point. Because Sora is not interesting in Kingdom Hearts 2. I mean, he's interesting in every other Kingdom Hearts game I played. Kingdom Hearts 1, Chain of Memories, even Coded. He's relatable. But in Kingdom Hearts 2, I can't relate to him. I don't like him. And I was just getting so bored of the story. And then when I saw that, I'm like, oh my god, yes! And so I kept playing, and kept playing, and kept waiting, and kept waiting, and kept waiting, and then it never happened. It drove me crazy. I don't know how much this kind of affects my personal biased view of the game, but, I ended up looking up what the hell was going on, and lo and behold, somebody was hacking. You fight Sephiroth at a certain point, you do team up with Axel at a certain point, and you can use Roxas at the beginning. So, combine all those elements together, and it is feasible to hack the game to make that fight a reality. But it never actually happens in the game. So, I kept waiting for the point where I got Roxas again, and it never happened, and I don't know, I kind of lost it when I beat the game. I'm like, do I get a bonus story or anything? Like, Reverse Rebirth, at least? Bonus Roxas, alternate continuity, something? Nothing. And I don't know how much that hurt my thoughts on the game, but either way, I still don't think it's very good. Again, I was getting bored of it, and a part of that is story progression. Even if I wasn't a huge fan of the story of Sora's character, they could have at least developed it more, and they didn't. Because, as I said, in Chain of Memories, between each world at least, you got, like, what's going on with the Council of Evil, or losing your memories or whatever. And in the original Kingdom Hearts, there was the 7 Princesses of Heart, you met Riku every now and then throughout the worlds, you were fighting the Disney villains, and they were the bad guys in the first game. In Kingdom Hearts 2, it's the organization. The Disney villains aren't very relevant other than in their own world. So, you were and there wasn't any in-between stuff. So you're going to a Disney world, doing it, then just doing the next one, then the next one, with no overarching plot significance. There's only 3 parts of the game with major plot. There's the very beginning, then after you do all the Disney worlds, there's the middle, which gets interrupted by Tron a bit, but there's the middle, and then after that you do all the Disney worlds again, and then there's the end, and that's it. Now, some people might say they like that plot anyways, if you, like, it could have been handled better, but they do like that plot, but I don't even like that plot. Even if it was, I mean, maybe if they gave more time to it, like in between the worlds, or added more into the worlds, it could have been better. But as it stands now, the plot just wasn't very good. Again, they abandoned a lot of elements from early in the game, which I was very interested in. And they also didn't develop, again, the chemistry between Sora and the organization members was terrible. There was none. Most of the fights boiled down to, come back to us, Roxas! And then Sora being like, I don't know what you're talking about, I'm just gonna kill you now. Because he didn't even understand the concept of nobody's having feelings. Because Yensid tells them early on, they don't. And he's totally freaking wrong. Like, we know that nobody's have feelings. Like, it takes you a while to get through it. Maybe Yensid didn't know, or maybe he was using Sora. That's an interesting theory. He told Sora that because he knew he didn't want Sora to think too much about it. Because he would think, oh, if Sora knows they have potential feelings, he might not want to kill them. I'll just tell him they have no feelings. That'll make it easier for him to kill them. Honestly, I think that might actually be true. Jensen's just playing it that way because he knows Sora thinks that way. I would not be surprised. And that makes the most sense to me because they clearly have feelings. Even without a heart, they have feelings. They're maybe not as much, but they do. And yeah, so many of those fights were just Roxas come back to us and Sora being like, shut up, die. And there was no chemistry. And the organization members, you learn so little about most of them. And again, in Chain of Memories, there was chemistry. Because, like, there was real chemistry, you really felt it as you were fighting the organization. But you forgot all about your memories in Chain, and they didn't do a good job of re-establishing that chemistry. But Roxas had so much chemistry, if they brought him back, had him fight against the organization, which he already wanted to do, then there could have been real chemistry. In fact, there was a perfect part where I felt they could have brought Roxas back. And this was at a point where I'd already seen the thing, so I was expecting Roxas to come back. When it didn't happen, I'm like, are you kidding me? They had a perfect opportunity. When is it going to happen? And then, of course, it didn't happen. But it was the middle part. The middle part when... I don't remember exactly what happens, because I haven't seen Kingdom Hearts 2 since I first played it, because I don't care much about it. But I believe it was either Xemnas or Sykes. I think it was Sykes. That he was taunting Sora, and Maleficent was actually kind of like reverse taunting, and they were like having a, they were kind of having a dick off, even though Maleficent didn't have a dick, but she had a big stick. Anyways, like they were using Heartless against each other. Maleficent ends up saving you there, but basically, oh, cute song. But basically, Sykes is trying to use you, and you kind of fall into darkness temporarily. And I thought that was going to be when it happened. That would be the perfect moment to split Sora up from Roxas. And then it just didn't. I really would have liked if, at that point, Roxas split from Sora, and then either Sora started fighting Roxas as like a rival, or maybe they joined together and like there could be a Pause World, Nega World thing going on, and you fight, and like you switch between the worlds, and if you're Pause World, you're Sora, if you're Nega World, you're Roxas. That could have been cool. I just thought of so many ways Kingdom Hearts 2 could have been better, but, and another big thing, though, why I don't like it is because at the time when I played it, and this was probably the original intention, it was going to be the final thing in the story. Now, I don't know if it was going to be the final thing, but they might have, I don't know if they were planning to be done with the organization already or not. If they were, then they failed. Kingdom Hearts 2 failed as a game. If they weren't, it still kind of fails as a game, but at least I can see maybe what they were doing. But you know what my thoughts are? The creator fucked up, and he knows he fucked up, so the organization members are going to be coming back. That's going to be a thing, and I feel like that's the creator's way of apologizing to the fans, because he realized he misused most of them, and the fans liked them, so he's going to use them better now. That's what it feels like to me. Maybe you don't agree, but in my opinion, the only organization members who were utilized well were Marluxia, Larxene, Vexen, and Demyx. That's it. The rest of them were all misused or underutilized in some way. The main examples being Lexaeus, who did, like, nothing. Axel, who might as well have been killed by Roxas early in Kingdom Hearts 2, because after that, he serves, like, no purpose. And Roxas himself. Because, again, after that beginning of Kingdom Hearts 2, he serves no purpose in the plot of Kingdom Hearts 2. And they built him up as this big, important character. And that bugs the crap out of me, as I've already said. So yeah, let's, before I move on to Roxas and 358 over 2 days, let's talk about, the gameplay for a second. The gameplay of Kingdom Hearts 2, I mean, it's fluider. It's fluider than Kingdom Hearts 1. It's less stale, it's faster paced. You have the drives, you have summons that are generally better. And so on the surface, it looks like a better battle system than Kingdom Hearts 1. Here's the problem. It's way too fucking easy. Kingdom Hearts 2 is such an easy game by comparison to Kingdom Hearts 1 and Chain. Because of that, it's just... on the surface, it's fun, but then once you realize nothing is giving you a challenge at all, it stops being fun and starts being, like, you're going out of your way to not fight wild enemies because you really just want a challenge from these bosses at least. And I believe I can count the number of times I died on my first playthrough of Kingdom Hearts 2. 4 times. 3 times to Dance Water Dance, and once to Xigbar. That was it. Which means, throughout the entire game, I never realized you could play as Mickey. I never knew. It's only when it got to the credit sequence at the end, and I saw, like, it says at the credits, like, Mickey saves or something. I read that, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? I had to look that up, because it never happened for me. Because the game was that easy. Now, I know, again, we now have the Final Mix version, and there's a critical mode, and it's much harder. And you know what? That's nice and all for critical mode, but again, we went so long without that existing. Also without the Roxas boss fight, which, as bad as the plot is, that was at least something they could have done, and they did in Final Mix. But even in the original, you didn't get it. That was like an obvious thing to put in the original, and they didn't put it. That was really dumb. But yeah, critical mode kind of helps make it harder, and I'm glad it's there now. But similar to the other thing with Kingdom Hearts 1 in the cutscenes, we didn't have it there for so long, and it also wasn't there in the original game. So it's a real complaint I can make. And again, I don't have the PS3, and I will never own that version, I'm assuming. So yeah, for me, it's still a complaint. So gameplay, on the surface, it's good until you realize it's way too easy, at least in the original version. So moving on to Days. Days' gameplay is Days' gameplay isn't that great. It's kind of stale. It's like staler than Kingdom Hearts 1. And Kingdom Hearts 1 was already kind of stale. But at least Kingdom Hearts 1, I mean, it's not that it's not challenging, because they have an interesting panel system in Days. And it's not bad. It's just, it's the monotony of the mission mode. The panels are fine. And with the staleness of the gameplay, it could have worked. It could have been fine. It's just the monotonous of going through the missions and going for so long without any major plot progressions. And because the organization's motives are to not interact with, Disney characters, you go for so long. There's so few instances of actually interacting with other characters other than the organization. And the organization's only 13 people. Hell, the first half of them, which in my opinion are the more interesting ones for the most part, get killed off extremely early on. So then you're down to like 6 or 7 other characters that you're interacting with. And that's it. And so because of that, the gameplay, the story progression, it's all kind of slow. The plot itself is nice. I like it a lot. I really do enjoy the story of Days. I just wish they could have handled it better. Which is a shame, because again, Roxas is my favorite character, and I enjoyed playing as him, but at a certain point, I just had to put the game down. It was just too boring and too taxing. I ended up looking up, I've watched a Let's Play of it at this point, and I watched the 1.5 movie, but I have not actually finished the game myself, but I've seen the plot points, so as a game, I still think it's better than Kingdom Hearts 2, just because in a game like Kingdom Hearts 2, you think the plot's really important, and they done goofed, whereas Days has a good plot. They just poor execution and poor gameplay elements. Which, I mean, I guess as a game, you could say Kingdom Hearts 2 is better, I suppose, but if you just watch the 1.5 movie, the story in that is definitely better than the story in Kingdom Hearts 2. So moving on, we've got Birth by Sleep. Unfortunately, I never got a chance to play Birth by Sleep, because I don't own a PSP or a PS3, and I don't plan to own either of those. But from what I've seen, it's a really good game. I've seen playthroughs of the whole thing, so I know the whole story, I know the whole gameplay. From what I've seen, the gameplay is better than KH2, because they had the command system, which I think is a better thing than the magic. And the plot's also nice. It's kind of weird how it's disjointed, and that kind of hurts some of the immersion that Kingdom Hearts has, because it gets you immersed in you going, like, getting more powerful and stuff, whereas in Birth by Sleep, you have these 3 dejected mini-stories. But I kind of, like, for what it is, I like the way it works. And, you know, if they're only going to do it once, it's fine. Again, kills some of the immersion, but they actually have good plot progression. And the Disney worlds are short, but they're sweet. Some people have beginnings, some people have endings, some people have middles. And it really rounds out. It's a really good prequel-type game. And also, it kind of answers the question of, well, it doesn't... You see, Roxas being Ventus was never really a question until Birth by Sleep came out, but it kind of... But then once they start to go into the fact that somebody's and nobody's look alike and you're supposed to remember your memories, Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep kind of answers some of those questions of, like, why he doesn't remember his memories and stuff like that, and... Because Roxas is really Ventus, so put an X in Ventus and switch that around, that should be his real name. But, yeah, so I guess I could say Ventus is my favorite character, or should I say Roxas? I don't know, hard to say. Roctus is definitely my favorite. Rucksack is my favorite character, but I mean the others were enjoyable too. Terra, Aqua. It was definitely interesting seeing those. I think Birth by Sleep and Days are both really good examples of stories where you basically know the ending before you start, but they still have a really good way of, like, kicking you in the pants when you're not looking. Because Birth by Sleep is a bit more confusing, but Days you can pretty much predict where it's going, because you know how Roxas ends, and you know Jean's not around when you start, too. Birth by Sleep, some of the things don't make full sense, but you can kind of see where some of them are going, but they still do a really good job, even though you can probably see where some of them are going. My biggest complaint about Birth by Sleep is the fact that you can do the stories in any order. Now, that wouldn't be a complaint if it wasn't for the fact that you should be doing the stories in particular order. You should be playing Terra's, then Ventus's, then Aqua's. Ventus's before Terra's is okay, but you definitely want to play Aqua's last, because she contains some kind of spoilery elements for the other two. You definitely want to go in a specific order. And if you're going to do in that order, the game should have forced you to do it in that order, or at the very least, try to remove some of the spoiler elements, or make it in a way where playing it in any order wasn't as bad. If you do play in the preferred order, it's a really good story, but if you are new to the game and you don't know about this stuff, and you decide, hey, I like Aqua, let's pick her first, because she's like the first female you get to play as in the Kingdom Hearts game, all of a sudden you're getting spoiled about the others, and then you go to them and you ruin the experience, and it sucks. But that's my biggest BBS complaint. Moving on to Coded. Coded's an interesting one. I know Coded is very much the unfavorite of the Cage community, but I think it's kind of underrated. I think Chain's also a bit underrated, but Coded I also think is underrated. I don't think it's nearly as good as Chain, but I actually started Coded a long time ago. And then I put it down after a while because I was getting kind of bored of it. As far as the gameplay goes, I like the gameplay. It's fine. At times it feels a bit stale, but they added a lot of elements that they carried over from BBS that were really nice, like the command deck and other stuff. I love the stat matrix. I actually like the bugs element, the element of putting a twist on the worlds, and there is story progression, so I like the gameplay in that sense. I think it's definitely better than Days, and I think at times it's definitely better than Kingdom Hearts 1. But it was, at first it was the story progression that hurt me, and I wound up putting it down for a while. But I picked it up recently, and the further I've gotten into this game, the more crazy and divergent the plot's gotten, and I'm loving it. So actually, as of recording this, I have not finished Coded. I'm planning to finish it very soon. Part of me was thinking of just finishing it before I started this up, but I was like, fuck it, I want to start this up. So I'm starting it up. So avoid posting Coded spoilers in the comments. I will let you know once I have beaten Coded, and then you can spoil all you want, but for now, try to avoid it. I know some of the general plot points. I won't say what those are, because I could be wrong about them, because again, I'm not finished with the game yet. But I basically know that at the end of the game, it leads to Mickey sending the letter to Sora that Sora gets at the end of Kingdom Hearts 2, and that's the letter that basically, I think, tells him about the Mark of Mastery exam that him and Riku have to undertake. And this time, though, it's going to be a game long as opposed to Terra and Aqua, who did it in, like, a tutorial mission. So I guess it's gotten harder over the years. Steep learning curve. Yeah, so this should be interesting, because I believe that's my thoughts on the whole series at this point. Yeah, so I enjoy Kingdom Hearts a lot. I just think 2 is the big down point of the series, and I know a lot of people think the exact opposite. But in fact, if you do like it a lot, let me know why, because I've never really heard people's reasonings on why it's like the best one. I understand the gameplay is fluid, and if you have critical mode, then I guess it's hard as well. But if we're looking at the plot, do people like the plot? Like, I like the beginning, but then the rest is terrible in my opinion. If you like it, go ahead and tell me stuff, because I've never heard reasons for why it's good. All I've heard is, it is the bestest ever. Anyways, with that out of the way, I think it's about time we got into the game, because, oh boy, that was a long introduction, but, yeah, I'm ready. I know that it's gonna be Sora and Riku doing this, so Kairi getting the Jip again, which is kind of unfortunate, but, I'm glad that Riku's gonna be a main character again, because I enjoyed him in Reverse Rebirth. Sora, again, I've been attached to him in Kingdom Hearts, in Chain, and even in Coded, I'm attached to the freaking virtual Sora, more than the real Sora in Kingdom Hearts 2. So we'll see how he is for me in this game. Maybe he'll be better again. But in Kingdom Hearts 2, I just feel like they fell off with him, because I could not relate to him. He wasn't very interesting. So, I will be starting this. I'm gonna make it a separate video, so I will see you guys in part 1, or the intro video, which I'll probably do first, because I don't know if this intro is going to be copyrighted like crazy, so just in case, I'm going to make it its own video, and if they tell me to take it down, I will take it down. So, yeah, see you then.